Standing at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, staring up at its towering, perfectly aligned stones, you can't help but feel a shiver of awe. How did ancient builders, without lasers or modern machinery, achieve such staggering precision? The joints between the stones are so tight you couldn't slide a piece of paper between them. The pyramid's sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, accurate to within a fraction of a degree. This isn't just impressive, it's downright baffling. And yet, the Great Pyramid is just one of countless ancient marvels that defy everything we think we know about the past. From the impossibly smooth, laser-like cuts of Puma Punku's stones to the earthquake-proof walls of Saxehuaman, these structures whisper secrets we've yet to fully understand. How did civilizations thousands of years ago move 100-ton blocks across miles of rugged terrain? Why do some ancient temples resonate with sound frequencies that alter human consciousness? What lost technologies or forgotten knowledge allowed them to achieve feats that even today's engineers struggle to replicate? These aren't just academic questions, they're doorways into a world where history as we know it might be missing entire chapters. This journey isn't just about stones and ruins, it's about the people who built them. What drove them to create on such an unimaginable scale? Were they guided by advanced science, celestial wisdom, or something even more mysterious? Over the next 30 mysteries, we'll peel back the layers of time to explore the gaps in our understanding. Some of these enigmas might challenge your beliefs about human progress. Others might leave you wondering if we've truly unlocked all the secrets of our ancestors. So take a step closer and let's unravel these puzzles together, because the deeper we dig, the more extraordinary the past becomes. The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just impress with its size, it stuns with its precision. Every detail, from its near-perfect alignment to true north to the razor-thin gaps between its massive stones, suggests a level of craftsmanship that shouldn't have been possible 4,500 years ago. Think about it, the pyramid's base is leveled to within just 2 centimeters across an area larger than 10 football fields. That's like laying a modern runway with nothing but ropes, stones, and sheer intuition. Even more baffling, its sides align with the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, with an error margin of just 3/60ths of a degree. Modern architects using GPS would struggle to match that accuracy, yet the ancient Egyptians did it without compasses or satellites. How one theory points to the stars. They might have used the circumpolar constellations, tracking their rotation to pinpoint true north over months of observation. Another idea suggests they used shadow-casting rods or water-filled trenches to measure angles with startling precision. But here's the catch, even if they had these methods, executing them on such a colossal scale would require an almost supernatural understanding of geometry and physics. And then there's the masonry. The limestone blocks fit together so tightly that their joints are still airtight after millennia. No mortar was used, just perfectly cut stones, some weighing 15 tons, stacked with gaps thinner than a coin. Some researchers speculate the builders had access to advanced tools now lost to history, perhaps even hardened copper alloys or diamond-tipped drills. Others argue it was sheer patience and skill, with workers polishing each block for weeks until it locked into place like a puzzle piece. But why go to such lengths? The pyramid wasn't just a tomb. It was a cosmic machine designed to mirror the heavens and channel unseen energies. Every angle, every measurement seems deliberate, as if the builders encoded secrets into the very fabric of the structure. What's most humbling is realizing how much we still don't know. Modern engineers can't fully explain the techniques used, let alone replicate them without technology. The pyramid stands as a silent challenge, daring us to rethink what ancient civilizations were truly capable of. And if they could achieve this, what other knowledge have we forgotten? Puma Punku's ruins don't just puzzle archaeologists, they defy the very limits of what we believe ancient civilizations could achieve. Nestled high in the Bolivian Andes, this site's stonework looks like it was crafted with modern machinery. The andesite blocks, some weighing more than 100 tons, feature razor-sharp edges, flawless right angles, and surfaces so smooth they reflect light like glass. Even more astonishing, these stones were transported from quarries over 10 miles away, across rugged terrain at an altitude of 12,000 feet. How did builders without wheels or metal tools accomplish this? The precision is mind-bending. Some blocks have intricate notches and grooves that interlock with neighboring stones, fitting together like pieces of a giant 3D puzzle. The cuts are so exact that they suggest the use of advanced saws or even diamond-tipped drills, yet no such tools have ever been found in the archaeological record. Even today, replicating these cuts would require sophisticated equipment. One theory points to a lost technology, perhaps a method of softening stone using plant acids or sound waves, allowing workers to shape the rock like clay. Another possibility is that Puma Punku's builders inherited knowledge from an even older, advanced civilization whose techniques vanished over time. Local legends speak of gods or giants who constructed the site in a single night, adding a layer of myth to the mystery. But the real enigma isn't just how they built it, it's why. Puma Punku isn't a temple or a palace. Its layout resembles a sprawling, geometric blueprint with no clear purpose. Some researchers think it was a ceremonial center or an astronomical observatory, but its true function remains as elusive as the tools used to create it. What's undeniable is that Puma Punku challenges our timeline of human innovation. If a civilization could achieve this level of precision over 1,000 years ago, what else might they have known, and why was that knowledge lost? The stones stand silent, their secrets locked in those flawless cuts, waiting for us to uncover the truth. Stonehenge's smaller bluestones hold a mystery that stretches far beyond their size. These 4-ton slabs didn't come from the surrounding plains. They were hauled over 140 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. Picture this: Neolithic people without wheels, metal tools, or even domesticated animals strong enough to pull such loads, somehow transported 80 of these massive stones across rivers, valleys, and rugged terrain. The logistics are mind-boggling. One theory suggests glaciers carried the bluestones during the last ice age, depositing them closer to the site. But here's the problem: geologists haven't found evidence of glacial movement in the exact path needed to explain their placement. Even if ice did some of the work, humans still had to move them the final miles and arrange them with precision. Another idea involves a combination of sledges, rollers, and sheer manpower. Experiments show teams could drag stones this size using wooden tracks and ropes, but it would require hundreds of people coordinating flawlessly for weeks. Then there's the bigger question: why go to such lengths? The bluestones aren't just ordinary rock. They're spotted dolerite, a rare stone with a striking appearance and, some believe, mystical properties. Ancient legends claim they had healing powers, and archaeological evidence shows the Preseli Hills were a sacred site long before Stonehenge existed. Were these stones chosen for their spiritual significance, or was there something special about their composition? Modern studies reveal the bluestones produce a unique acoustic resonance when struck, hinting they might have been used in rituals involving sound. But the puzzle deepens. Stonehenge wasn't built in one phase. It evolved over centuries. The bluestones were rearranged multiple times, suggesting their purpose shifted with each generation. Some researchers think they marked celestial events, aligning with solstices or lunar cycles. Others argue they formed a symbolic journey, representing a pilgrimage from Wales to Salisbury Plain. What's clear is that Stonehenge's builders invested extraordinary effort into these stones, far more than practicality alone would demand. Their choice to transport bluestones instead of using local materials speaks to a deeper intention, one woven into the landscape itself. And that intention remains just out of reach, buried under layers of time and speculation. The Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek stands on a foundation that defies logic. 3 colossal stones known as the trilithon, each weighing between 800 and 1,500 tons. To put that in perspective, that's the equivalent of stacking 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jets on top of each other. These blocks weren't just dragged a few feet. They were hauled from a quarry half a mile away, then hoisted 20 feet into the air and fitted together with uncanny precision. Even today, engineers can't fully explain how it was done. The heaviest modern cranes max out at around 1,000 tons, and we're talking about stones half again as heavy, moved and placed over 2,000 years ago. How did ancient builders achieve this? The quarry itself offers clues. One block, still partially attached to the bedrock, weighs an estimated 1,650 tons. Dubbed the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. The tool marks on its surface suggest workers used hammerstones and chisels to carve it out, but the real mystery lies in the logistics. Rolling such a mass would require a wooden track system far sturdier than anything known from that era. Some researchers propose a system of levers, counterweights, and pivots, while others speculate about lost techniques involving sound or vibration to reduce friction. Then there's the wilder theory that the Romans who built the temple atop these megaliths inherited the platform from an earlier civilization with advanced technology or even otherworldly help. But here's what's even more baffling. The trilithon stones aren't just stacked. They're interlocked with smaller blocks in a way that distributes weight so effectively, the structure has survived earthquakes for millennia. The joints are so tight that during the 1759 quake that leveled much of Baalbek, the trilithon didn't budge. This wasn't brute strength, it was engineering genius. Why go to such extremes? Baalbek was a crossroads of cultures, a place where the gods of Rome, Greece, and older Phoenician traditions merged. The scale of the foundation suggests it was meant to awe, to declare human mastery over nature, or perhaps to honor something far greater. Whether the work of forgotten innovators or patient laborers with time and ingenuity we've underestimated, Baalbek's megaliths remain a humbling reminder. History's deepest secrets are often buried in plain sight. The walls of Saxehuaman don't just defy expectations, they mock them. Imagine stacking irregular boulders, some weighing over 100 tons, so precisely that not a single gap remains between them, then watching those walls outlast centuries of earthquakes. No mortar, no adhesive, just stone fitting against stone with a perfection that modern engineers struggle to explain. The Inca built this fortress high above Cusco, Peru, using rocks with edges so sharp and angles so precise, they look like they were cut by a laser. Yet they had no iron tools, no wheels, and no written language to record their methods. How did they do it? One theory suggests they used a technique called ashlar masonry, where stones are painstakingly shaped by hand until they lock together. But here's the catch. The joints aren't just tight, they're interlocking, with complex angles and curves that prevent shifting. Some blocks have as many as 12 sides, each carved to fit its neighbors like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle. Even more baffling, the walls taper inward, leaning slightly to resist seismic activity. When earthquakes strike, the stones shift just enough to absorb the shock, then settle back into place. That's not luck, that's physics mastered centuries before modern engineering. Then there's the mystery of the shaping itself. Without metal tools, how did the Inca achieve such flawless cuts? Some researchers point to a rumored plant-based stone softening liquid mentioned in colonial-era texts, which could have temporarily made the rock malleable. Others propose they used sound waves or vibrations to guide their chisels, a theory fueled by legends of Inca priests using harmonics in rituals. But no physical evidence supports these ideas, leaving us with a far simpler, yet no less astonishing, possibility. The Inca might have done it all with nothing but stone hammers, bronze chisels, and an almost superhuman understanding of geometry. The real question isn't just how, though it's why. Saxehuaman wasn't just a fortress. Its zigzagging walls mirror the lightning bolt, a sacred symbol of the Inca sun god Inti. Some believe the site was a ceremonial hub, its precision serving a spiritual purpose as much as a practical one. Every perfectly placed stone might have been a prayer, a testament to humanity's ability to harmonize with the earth. Or perhaps the Inca knew something about construction we've yet to rediscover. Either way, Saxehuaman stands as a silent challenge, its walls whispering secrets we're still straining to hear. High on a mountainside in Peru, the unfinished monolith of Olante Tambo stands as a frozen moment in ancient construction, a 50-ton puzzle abandoned mid-creation. This massive stone block, still attached to the bedrock at one end, bears the marks of precise grooves and cut lines that hint at an ambitious vision. But what's truly baffling isn't just its size or craftsmanship, it's the location. The monolith rests on a steep incline, hundreds of feet above the valley floor. How did builders intend to transport it downhill, let alone integrate it into a structure? The logistics are staggering. The most compelling clue lies in the monolith's surface. Deep, straight channels were carved along its sides, as if marking where it would eventually be split into smaller blocks. But the tools capable of such clean cuts in granite, a stone harder than steel, remain a mystery. Modern experiments show that even with bronze chisels and stone hammers, replicating these marks would require months of labor. Yet the Inca, who are credited with Olante Tambo's later constructions, left no evidence of advanced metalworking. This has led some to speculate the monolith predates the Inca, perhaps crafted by an earlier culture with forgotten techniques. Then there's the question of movement. The quarries where these stones were extracted sit across the Urubamba River, meaning the monolith would have had to be dragged uphill, a feat that defies conventional explanations. Local legends speak of giants or gods who built the site, while archaeologists propose systems of ramps, ropes, and counterweights, but no remnants of such infrastructure have been found. Even more intriguing, the monolith's intended purpose. Its precise angles and symmetry suggest it was meant for something far grander than a simple wall, possibly a ceremonial platform or astronomical marker. Why was it abandoned? An earthquake, a war, or a sudden shift in priorities could have halted the project. Or perhaps the builders encountered a technical obstacle even their ingenuity couldn't overcome. Whatever the reason, the monolith remains a tantalizing what if, a glimpse into an ancient blueprint that never reached completion. Its very existence challenges our assumptions about the limits of pre-Columbian engineering and leaves us wondering what other grand designs were lost to time. New Grange isn't just a tomb, it's a 5,000-year-old celestial timepiece. This massive circular mound in Ireland's Boyne Valley hides a narrow passage leading to a central chamber. But here's the astonishing part. For just 17 minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, A beam of sunlight pierces through a perfectly positioned roof box above the entrance, creeping down the passageway until it floods the inner chamber with golden light. The effect is so precise it feels choreographed, as if the stones themselves were placed by someone who could predict the sun's movement centuries in advance. How did Neolithic farmers, people without written language or metal tools, engineer such a feat? The alignment isn't just close, it's mathematically exact. The passage points to the solstice sunrise with an accuracy of less than 1 degree of error. To achieve this, builders would have needed an intimate knowledge of the solar cycle, tracking the sun's shifting positions year after year until they could pinpoint the shortest day. Some researchers believe they used simple markers, sticks or standing stones, to map the sun's path over generations. Others suggest Grange's design was refined through trial and error, with earlier structures serving as prototypes. But the deeper mystery lies in its purpose. The solstice light doesn't just illuminate the chamber, it transforms it. For a fleeting moment, the sun's rays touch carvings of spirals and diamonds on the back wall, symbols found across Neolithic Europe but never fully deciphered. Was this a symbolic rebirth, linking the dead to the returning sun, or a ritual calendar marking the agricultural cycle? The tomb's bones hint at ceremonial cremations, suggesting the solstice event wasn't just practical, it was sacred. What's truly humbling is the scale of their ambition. Grange predates Egypt's pyramids by 600 years and Stonehenge by a millennium. Its builders hauled 200,000 tons of earth and stone, some transported from miles away, to create a structure that would outlast empires. And they did it all to capture a single moment of light once a year in the darkest days of winter. That's not just engineering, it's poetry written in stone. As the solstice sun fades from Grange's chamber, another ancient wonder whispers its own enigma. Far to the south, beneath the Mediterranean island of Malta, lies a labyrinth where sound doesn't just echo, it bends reality. Beneath the narrow streets of Malta lies a place where sound doesn't just echo, it transforms. The Saflini Hypogeum, a labyrinth carved from solid limestone over 5,000 years ago, hides a chamber with an acoustic quirk so precise it borders on the supernatural. When certain frequencies are vocalized here, particularly tones between 110 and 111 Hz, the sound swirls through the space in a way that vibrates the very bones of your skull. Researchers have found this specific frequency can shift brainwave patterns, nudging the mind into a state between waking and dreaming. Was this accidental, or did the builders engineer this effect with purpose? The chamber's architecture offers clues. Its walls curve inward like a bell, amplifying and directing sound waves with mathematical precision. Niches carved into the stone seem placed to catch and rebound vibrations, creating standing waves that hum through the air long after the initial note fades. Even more striking, the Hypogeum wasn't just a tomb, though thousands of skeletons were found here, but a space where sound and ritual intertwined. Modern experiments show chanting or drumming in this chamber produces eerie harmonics, as if the room itself joins in. Some archaeologists theorize it was used for trance induction, with priests or healers leveraging sound to alter consciousness. Others point to the carved spirals on the walls, symbols often linked to altered states across ancient cultures, as further evidence of sacred acoustics. But how did Neolithic builders without formal knowledge of physics achieve this? One possibility is they discovered the effect through trial and error, refining the chamber's shape over generations. Another, more provocative idea suggests they possessed a lost understanding of resonance, perhaps passed down from an even older civilization. Local folklore speaks of the Hypogeum's voice, a low hum said to linger in the tunnels long after visitors leave. The true purpose may never be known, but one thing is certain: this wasn't just architecture, it was alchemy. The Hypogeum's designers didn't just build walls, they orchestrated space, turning stone into an instrument. And as we grapple with their intentions, another ancient site beckons, where sound bends perception in ways equally mystifying. Deep in the Andes, the temple of Chavin de Huont plays tricks on the mind, not with illusions but with sound. Step into its labyrinthine corridors, and your voice distorts in ways that defy physics. A whisper bounces off the walls, ricocheting until it seems to come from all directions at once. But the real marvel lies in the conch shell trumpets found buried here. Blow one from a hidden alcove, and its deep, resonant call vibrates through the entire complex, reaching chambers dozens of feet away with spine-tingling clarity. How did a civilization without acoustic modeling software or microphones engineer such precise sonic effects? The answer lies in the stone itself. The temple's builders carved air ducts and ventilation channels with calculated asymmetry, creating pathways where sound waves bend and amplify. Certain corridors narrow abruptly, funneling noise into focused beams, while others curve like seashells to produce natural reverberation. Modern acousticians have mapped these spaces and found something astonishing. The temple's layout acts like a giant musical instrument, tuned to specific frequencies that trigger physiological responses. When certain notes are played, the vibrations synchronize with the human brain's alpha waves, inducing states of calm or heightened awareness. This wasn't accidental. The temple's designers likely used these effects to manipulate perception during rituals. Imagine a shaman blowing a trumpet from an unseen chamber, his voice warping into something unearthly as the walls themselves seem to speak. Pilgrims, already in a suggestible state from fasting or herbal preparations, would have experienced these sounds as divine messages. Even today, visitors report disorientation and altered awareness within the tunnels, proof that the acoustics still work after 2.5 millennia. Yet the greatest mystery isn't how they built it, but how they knew. Without formal physics, how did they understand wave propagation or resonance well enough to sculpt it into stone? Some scholars believe they borrowed knowledge from older coastal cultures familiar with conch acoustics. Others argue the effects were discovered through trial and error, refined over generations of ritual use. But the precision suggests something more, an intuitive grasp of sound's power, harnessed to blur the line between the human and the divine. As the echoes of Chavin fade, another enigma rises from the depths, this time not in mountains but beneath the ocean. Off the coast of Japan, a submerged structure hints at a civilization lost to time, its purpose as murky as the waters that conceal it. Beneath the crystal-clear waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a structure so perplexing it blurs the line between geology and archaeology. The Yonaguni monument rises from the ocean floor like a sunken city, its stark, angular terraces and staircases cutting through the rock with almost surgical precision. Some see the hand of human craftsmanship in its 90-degree angles, perfectly flat platforms, and what appear to be carved pillars. Others argue it's a freak of nature, a sandstone formation shaped over millennia by tidal erosion. But if this is natural, why does it look so unnaturally deliberate? Diving into the debate, the man-made theory points to features that defy random chance. The main terrace is a massive, level platform about 150 feet long, flanked by what resemble steps rising in uniform increments. Nearby, two tall pillars form a narrow gateway, their tops aligned as if designed to frame the sunrise during solstices. Even more compelling are the tool-marked straight grooves and circular depressions that mirror those found in ancient quarries. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura, who has studied the site for decades, insists these details couldn't form without human intervention. He's identified what he believes are ceremonial altars, a processional walkway, and even a carved human face peering from the rock. Skeptics, however, counter that nature is capable of astonishing geometry. Sandstone fractures along clean plains and strong currents can sculpt surprisingly regular shapes. The steps might be parallel bedding planes exposed by erosion, while the pillars could be joints where rock naturally split. But here's the twist. The monument sits at a depth that would have been above sea level around 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. If human hands shaped it, this would place its construction in a time when mainstream archaeology says complex societies didn't exist. The implications are staggering. If Yonaguni is artificial, it hints at a lost coastal civilization swallowed by rising waters, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis. Local legends speak of a sunken kingdom, and underwater ruins have been reported near Taiwan and Okinawa, suggesting a possible network. Yet without definitive proof like carvings or artifacts, the mystery endures. What's undeniable is the monument's eerie magnetism. Whether a masterpiece of nature or a relic of forgotten builders, it challenges our timeline of human achievement. And as divers glide through its silent corridors, one question lingers. Are we staring at the world's oldest pyramid, or simply a breathtaking accident of the earth? Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. This sprawling complex in southeastern Turkey, dating back 12,000 years, isn't just old, it's impossibly ancient. To put that in perspective, it predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the pyramids by 7,000. But what makes it truly revolutionary isn't just its age, it's the fact that it was built by hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly lacked the organization or resources to create monumental architecture. Yet here it stands, a vast ceremonial site with towering limestone pillars, some weighing 20 tons, carved with intricate reliefs of animals and abstract symbols. The mystery deepens when you realize Göbekli Tepe wasn't just abandoned, it was buried. Around 8,000 years ago, someone deliberately filled in the entire site with thousands of tons of soil and rubble, preserving it like a time capsule. Why? Theories range from ritual closure, a symbolic death of the sacred space, to protection against invaders or even environmental shifts. But the act itself suggests a reverence so profound that generations later, people still remembered its significance enough to hide it from view. Then there's the puzzle of its purpose. The site lacks evidence of permanent settlement, no houses, no granaries, just concentric rings of megalithic pillars. This wasn't a village, it was a gathering place, possibly the world's first cathedral. The T-shaped pillars, some standing 16 feet tall, resemble stylized human figures, their arms carved in relief as if frozen in silent prayer. The animal carvings, snakes, foxes, scorpions, might represent constellations or clan totems, hinting at a spiritual system far more complex than we assumed for this era. Most baffling of all, Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture by at least 1,000 years. For decades, archaeologists believed that organized religion and monumental architecture only emerged after farming, when surplus food allowed specialized labor. But this site turns that logic on its head. Here, hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly spent every waking moment foraging, somehow found the time, skill, and motivation to quarry, transport, and erect these colossal stones. It suggests something radical, that the urge to build temples, to seek meaning beyond survival, might have been what drove humans to settle down and farm in the first place. Who were these builders? Without written records, we can only piece together clues from the stones themselves. The precision of the carvings implies specialized artisans, while the scale of construction points to a society capable of large-scale cooperation. Some researchers speculate Göbekli Tepe was a regional pilgrimage site, drawing clans from across the Fertile Crescent for rituals or trade. Others see it as an astronomical observatory, with pillars aligned to solstice sunrises or star patterns. But perhaps the most haunting question isn't what Göbekli Tepe was for, but why its builders vanished. After centuries of use, the site was sealed and forgotten, its memory lost until a shepherd stumbled upon it in the 1990s. Did climate change force its creators to migrate? Did a new belief system render it obsolete? Or was its burial itself the final act of a dying tradition, a way to send the gods into the earth? As the dust settles over these ancient pillars, another mystery emerges from the deserts of Peru, where lines etched into the earth form shapes so vast they can only be seen from the sky. The Nazca lines stretch across Peru's arid plains like a giant sketchbook, their massive geoglyphs so vast they vanish into abstraction when viewed from the ground. Only from the air do these colossal figures, a hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spiral-tailed monkey, a spider spanning 150 feet, reveal their breathtaking precision. Etched into the dark desert surface by removing reddish pebbles to expose lighter soil beneath, these designs have endured for 2,000 years, untouched by wind or rain. But here's the puzzle. How did the Nazca people, who lacked flight or even the concept of aerial perspective, create such perfectly proportioned shapes without ever seeing their work from above? One theory suggests they scaled up small models using grids and ropes, meticulously transferring proportions across the desert floor. Archaeologists have found wooden stakes at some sites that could have anchored such measuring systems. But even with this method, maintaining symmetry over hundreds of yards would require mathematical sophistication far beyond what we've credited to this ancient culture. Another idea points to astronomical alignments. The spider's leg, for instance, points directly to the setting sun during the winter solstice, while other lines frame celestial events like the Pleiades' rise. Could these have been giant calendars marking seasons for agriculture or rituals? Then there's the enigma of purpose. Some researchers argue the lines formed sacred pathways for processions, their very act of walking a form of worship. Others propose they were offerings to gods or ancestors, meant to be seen from the heavens. Local myths speak of deities who traveled the skies, fueling speculation that the Nazca might have crafted these designs to communicate with beings they believed watched from above. But the most haunting possibility, that the lines were never meant to be seen at all, that their power lay in the act of creation itself, a communal endeavor to reshape the earth in harmony with cosmic forces. What's undeniable is the audacity of their vision. These aren't just scratches in the dirt. Some lines run straight as arrows for miles, deviating less than a meter over their entire length. The curves of the animal figures flow with anatomical accuracy. The spider, for example, depicts a species found only in remote Amazonian forests, suggesting knowledge exchanged across vast distances. And all this was achieved without modern tools, without written blueprints, without any way to verify their work except by faith and collective memory. As the desert wind whispers over these ancient lines, another mystery emerges, one not carved into earth but forged in fire. Far from Peru, in the workshops of a civilization famed for its metalwork, artisans created objects so advanced their secrets would vanish for centuries. The Antikythera Mechanism is a relic so advanced it seems out of place in history. Discovered in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera in 1901, this corroded bronze artifact sat in obscurity for decades before researchers realized its true significance. When X-rays finally revealed its interior, the world saw something astonishing. An intricate clockwork of at least 30 interlocking gears, some with teeth so tiny they resemble the components of a 19th century Swiss watch. Yet this device dates back to the 1st or 2nd century BCE, over 2,000 years ago. What makes it revolutionary isn't just its complexity, but its purpose. The mechanism could predict solar and lunar eclipses with pinpoint accuracy, track the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, and even model the irregular orbit of the moon. It was, in essence, a mechanical computer capable of performing calculations that would take a room full of scribes with abacuses months to replicate. The front dial featured a moving display of the zodiac and Egyptian calendar, while the back housed spiral scales for eclipse predictions and planetary positions. This wasn't just a tool, it was a miniature cosmos in bronze. The real mystery isn't how it worked, but how its knowledge vanished. Devices of similar complexity wouldn't reappear in Europe until the 14th century, with the advent of mechanical clocks. Why was this technology lost for over a millennium? Some historians point to the collapse of the ancient Greek world, where wars and shifting power structures may have disrupted the transmission of specialized craftsmanship. Others speculate the mechanism was a rare prototype, the work of a lone genius like Archimedes or Hipparchus, whose secrets died with them. Equally puzzling is the lack of historical records. While ancient texts mention celestial models and planetariums, none describe anything as sophisticated as the Antikythera mechanism. Was it considered so valuable that its design was kept secret, or were such devices more common than we realize, lost to time and decay? The shipwreck itself offers a clue. The vessel was laden with luxury goods, suggesting the mechanism was a high-status object, possibly en route to a Roman collector or scholar. Modern attempts to reconstruct the device have only deepened the awe. Engineers using period-appropriate tools have struggled to replicate its precision, particularly the subtle curves of its gears, which account for the moon's elliptical orbit. This level of astronomical insight, paired with mechanical ingenuity, suggests a scientific tradition far more advanced than we've credited to the ancient world. As we marvel at this forgotten marvel, another ancient innovation beckons, one that defies the ravages of time, not with gears, but with chemistry. The Romans mixed a concrete so durable it heals itself, a feat modern science is only now beginning to understand. Roman concrete doesn't just withstand time, it defies it. While modern bridges and sidewalks crumble after 50 years, structures like the Pantheon's dome and the harbor walls of Caesarea have stood intact for 2,000 years, submerged in seawater or battered by earthquakes. The secret, a self-healing recipe so advanced that scientists only unlocked its mysteries in the last decade. When researchers analyzed samples of ancient Roman concrete, they found tiny white chunks, lime clasts, scattered throughout the mixture. At first, these were dismissed as sloppy mixing, but the truth is far more brilliant. Those clasts are actually the concrete's repair kit. When cracks form and water seeps in, the lime dissolves and recrystallizes, filling the gaps like microscopic stitches. It's a regenerative process modern engineers are scrambling to replicate. How did the Romans stumble upon this formula? Unlike today's concrete, which uses Portland cement, a brittle, high-temperature product, Roman builders mixed volcanic ash from the Pozzuoli region with lime and seawater. This pozzolanic reaction created a binder that not only hardened underwater but grew stronger over time. The lime clasts, once thought to be flaws, turned out to be the key. They act as reservoirs of reactive material, ensuring the concrete can heal itself indefinitely. But here's the puzzle: this knowledge vanished after the fall of Rome. Medieval builders reverted to weaker mortars, and Chinese letter was lost until the 19th century, when engineers rediscovered pozzolanic ash but without the self-healing lime. Why the regression? One theory points to the collapse of Rome's trade networks, cutting off access to high-quality volcanic materials. Another suggests the meticulous, labor-intensive process like hand mixing the lime was abandoned for speed and simplicity. But the most tantalizing possibility, the Romans themselves might not have fully understood the science. Their recipe could have been perfected through trial and error, passed down as a trade secret until the last artisans died without heirs. Modern labs are now racing to reverse engineer this ancient innovation. MIT researchers have created a version with embedded lime capsules, while others experiment with bacteria that secrete limestone. But the real lesson isn't just about materials, it's about humility. The Romans achieved durability we still can't match, proving that some ancient solutions were millennia ahead of their time. And if their concrete leaves us in awe, wait until you hear about the metal that bent like rubber yet sliced through armor, a material so legendary its recipe was lost to the ages. Damascus steel wasn't just metal, it was magic forged into blades. Warriors who wielded these swords told stories of them slicing through lesser weapons like butter, bending nearly in half without snapping, and holding an edge so sharp it could split a hair dropped onto its blade. What made this steel so extraordinary? The secret lay in its composition, a unique blend of iron and carbon, infused with trace elements like vanadium and tungsten, all folded and reforged hundreds of times to create a swirling, water-patterned grain. But by the 18th century, the technique vanished, leaving behind only legends and a handful of surviving blades that even today's metallurgists can't perfectly replicate. Modern science has peeled back some of the mystery. High-resolution imaging reveals that Damascus steel contains carbon nanotubes, microscopic structures that act like internal reinforcement, giving the metal both flexibility and hardness. These nanotubes weren't added deliberately. They formed naturally during the forging process, a happy accident of chemistry and craftsmanship. The steel's distinctive patterns, often compared to flowing water or wood grain, weren't just decorative. They were visual proof of its layered, ultra-dense structure. But here's the catch. The original recipe relied on Huont steel ingots imported from India, which contained rare impurities like chromium and molybdenum. When these ore sources dried up or trade routes shifted, the knowledge of how to work with them faded. Attempts to recreate Damascus steel have come close but never matched the originals. Some blacksmiths claim the missing ingredient isn't just material, it's method. Historical accounts describe blades being quenched in dragon's blood, possibly pomegranate juice or other plant acids, or cooled in desert winds at precise temperatures. Others suggest the forging process involved cyclical heating and cooling over days, a ritualistic approach that modern industry can't economically replicate. The closest modern equivalent, pattern-welded steel, mimics the visual effect but lacks the legendary performance. The loss of this technology raises a haunting question: how could something so advanced simply disappear? One theory points to guild secrecy, artisans guarding their techniques so closely that when wars or plagues wiped them out, the knowledge died with them. Another possibility is that the rise of gunpowder made swords obsolete, turning what was once priceless craftsmanship into a fading art. But perhaps the most poetic explanation lies in the steel itself. Like a living thing, it responded to the hands that shaped it, a partnership between maker and material that can't be captured in a lab. As we marvel at these blades, some still gleaming after centuries, another ancient innovation calls to us, this time not in steel but in stone. Far from the forges of Damascus, a civilization engineered roads so resilient they've outlasted empires. The Inca didn't just build walls, they engineered them to dance with earthquakes. High in the Andes, where the ground shakes with terrifying regularity, their stone structures stand unshaken after centuries of tremors. The secret lies in the way the stones fit together. Unlike rigid modern masonry, Inca walls are built with blocks that have slight, intentional gaps and asymmetrical edges. When an earthquake strikes, these stones shift and sway, almost like a living thing, then settle back into place as if nothing happened. It's a breathtaking feat of passive engineering, no steel reinforcements, no shock absorbers, just stone meeting stone with perfect harmony. Take the walls of Cusco, for example. Many of them have survived devastating quakes that flattened modern buildings right beside them. The key is in the trapezoidal shapes of doorways and windows, which redistribute stress instead of concentrating it. The stones themselves are polygonal, each one uniquely carved to interlock with its neighbors in a way that allows micro-movements without collapse. Some theories suggest the Inca even used scale models to test their designs, shaping smaller versions of walls and subjecting them to simulated tremors before committing to full-scale construction. But how did they achieve this precision without metal tools or written blueprints? The answer might lie in their reverence for the natural world. The Inca saw mountains and rivers as living deities, and their architecture mirrors this philosophy: flexible, resilient, and in dialogue with the earth. They didn't fight seismic forces, they worked with them, creating structures that bent but never broke. Modern engineers are now studying these techniques, incorporating similar principles into earthquake-resistant designs from Tokyo to San Francisco. What's even more astonishing is that these walls weren't just functional, they were sacred. The finest masonry was reserved for temples and palaces, where the precision wasn't just about survival, but about connecting the human and divine. The stones fit so tightly that, according to legend, not even a blade of grass could grow between them. Some researchers believe the joints were polished with sand and water until they achieved a near liquid smoothness, a process that would have taken months of painstaking labor. This mastery of stone wasn't limited to walls. The Inca road system, a network spanning 25,000 miles across some of the most treacherous terrain on Earth, used the same principles of flexibility and endurance. Suspension bridges woven from grass ropes swayed with the wind, while staircases carved into cliffs adapted to shifting rocks. Every element was designed to endure, a testament to a civilization that understood the land's rhythms intimately. As we trace these roads across mountains and deserts, another ancient marvel comes into view, one that connected not just regions but entire civilizations. The Silk Road's hidden pathways stretched across continents, a web of trade and culture that defied the limits of its time. The Silk Road wasn't just a single path, it was a sprawling web of hidden trails, mountain passes, and desert oases stretching over 4,000 miles from China's imperial capitals to the bustling markets of Rome. Imagine setting out on a journey that could take years, navigating towering sand dunes, treacherous mountain ranges, and bandit-infested valleys, all without a single map or compass. Yet for centuries, traders did exactly that, carrying silk, spices, and ideas across continents with nothing but the stars, local knowledge, and sheer determination to guide them. What's truly astonishing isn't just the distance they covered, it's the invisible infrastructure that made it possible. Caravanserais, fortified way stations spaced a day's travel apart, dotted the route, offering shelter, fresh camels, and even repair workshops for wagons. These weren't just inns, they were hubs of cross-cultural exchange where Persian merchants bartered with Tibetan monks and Greek physicians, traded remedies with Chinese alchemists. Along the way, a system of relay messengers akin to an ancient pony express could transport urgent goods or messages at staggering speeds. Marco Polo once described dispatches traveling up to 300 miles in a single day. But how did traders avoid getting lost in the trackless Gobi Desert or the snowbound Pamir Mountains? The answer lies in a mix of oral tradition and celestial navigation. Seasoned guides memorized landmarks, a peculiar rock formation, a seasonal river, and passed this knowledge down like living maps. At night, they relied on the North Star and lunar cycles to maintain direction, while during the day, sunstones, a type of crystal that polarizes sunlight, may have helped them pinpoint the sun's position even through clouds. The real genius of the Silk Road, though, was its adaptability. When political upheaval closed one route, like the Taklamakan Desert's northern path, traders simply shifted south through the Fergana Valley. Floods, wars, and shifting empires couldn't stifle the flow of goods because the road wasn't a single artery. It was a circulatory system, with countless capillaries ensuring survival. Yet for all its resilience, the Silk Road couldn't save every city that depended on it. Some vanished so completely that even their memory faded, leaving behind only whispers in the sand. One such place met a fate so sudden, so catastrophic, that its very existence became legend, until the earth itself gave up its secrets. The story of Hylaik reads like a myth, but the ruins beneath the waves tell a different tale. In the winter of 373 BC, this prosperous Greek city vanished in a single night, its streets and temples swallowed by the sea so completely that rescue boats found nothing but water where a bustling port had stood. Ancient historians like Strabo recorded the event with chilling simplicity. A colossal earthquake struck, followed by a tsunami that dragged the entire city into the Corinthian Gulf. Survivors claimed Poseidon himself had unleashed his wrath, punishing Hylaik for denying his priesthood a sacred statue. For centuries, this account was dismissed as legend until the earth itself began to whisper the truth. Modern geologists piecing together the puzzle found something startling. The region sits atop a deadly intersection of tectonic plates, where the African plate grinds against Eurasia. Sediment cores extracted from the Gulf's floor reveal layers of marine sand mixed with shattered pottery, clear evidence of a catastrophic tsunami. Even more telling, the discovery of ancient shoreline deposits nearly 2 miles inland, proof that the coast was once far farther out. Hylaik didn't just sink, it was hit by a double disaster. First, the earthquake liquefied the soft delta soil, causing buildings to collapse like sandcastles. Then the tsunami swept away the remnants. Yet the mystery doesn't end there. Despite vivid historical accounts, Hylaik's exact location eluded searchers for over 2,000 years. Medieval travelers claimed to spot its bronze statues beneath the waves, and early archaeologists dug in vain along the coast. The breakthrough finally came in the 1990s when researchers realized the city hadn't slid into deep water. It was buried under centuries of silt, preserved like Pompeii but without the volcano. Ground-penetrating radar uncovered walls and artifacts nearly 20 feet below farmland, confirming Hylaik's fate, not a divine punishment but a tragic victim of geology. What makes Hylaik's story so haunting isn't just its sudden destruction, it's how thoroughly it was forgotten. Unlike Atlantis, which lived on in legend, Hylaik faded into obscurity, its name surviving only in scattered text. Perhaps its fate was too terrifying to remember, or maybe later generations dismissed it as a cautionary tale, but the ruins hold a warning even today. The same forces that erased Hylaik still lurk beneath the Mediterranean, where megathrust earthquakes could trigger similar disasters at any moment. As the silt settles over Hylaik's secrets, another enigma surfaces, one not written in stone or clay, but in a manuscript so baffling that centuries of scholars have stared at its pages in despair. The Voynich manuscript's unreadable script and bizarre illustrations defy every attempt at decoding, leaving us to wonder, was it a genius's cipher, a madman's doodles, or a hoax that outlived its creator? The Voynich manuscript is a riddle wrapped in vellum. its pages filled with looping, alien script that has defied translation for over 600 years. Discovered in 1912 by book dealer Wilfred Voynich, this 15th century artifact resembles an herbal encyclopedia at first glance, except the plants it depicts don't exist. Some leaves twist into impossible spirals, while roots form geometric patterns found nowhere in nature. Flip further, and you'll encounter nude women bathing in green liquid, zodiac wheels with unfamiliar constellations, and tubes that resemble microscopic cells centuries before the invention of the microscope. But the real mystery lies in the text itself. 234 pages of flowing, handwritten symbols that form no known language. Cryptographers, linguists, and even wartime codebreakers have thrown their best tools at it. Frequency analysis, pattern recognition, AI algorithms, yet the manuscript laughs at all attempts. Is it an elaborate hoax? Some argue the text is too consistent to be random gibberish, with statistical patterns resembling real languages. Others point to the herbal sections plant illustrations, which, while fantastical, often combine real botanical features, like a flower's petals paired with another species' leaves, suggesting intentional design rather than doodles. Then there's the astronomical section, where fold-out pages show celestial diagrams with stars arranged in precise clusters. One diagram mirrors the Rho-Ophiuchi cloud complex, a formation invisible to the naked eye. How could a medieval artist depict this without a telescope? Theories abound. Could it be a cipher like the coded notebooks of Renaissance alchemists? Some researchers claim to have decoded snippets, identifying Hungarian or Nahuatl roots, but these breakthroughs crumble under scrutiny. Others propose it's glossolalia, speaking in tongues, transcribed by a mystic in a trance state. The most tantalizing and controversial hypothesis, that it's a lost language, perhaps from a vanished culture, or even an attempt to create a universal script. Carbon dating places the vellum between 1404 and 1438, but the ink and pigments remain untested, leaving room for older origins. What's undeniable is the manuscript's eerie magnetism. It's passed through the hands of Holy Roman emperors, Jesuit scholars, and clandestine book collectors, each hoping to crack its code. Even Alan Turing, the father of modern computing, took a stab at deciphering it after breaking the Nazi Enigma cipher. Yet the pages keep their secrets, their curling script a silent taunt. Whether a genius's masterpiece or history's most enduring prank, the Voynich manuscript forces us to confront a humbling truth. Some puzzles refuse to be solved. And just as this unreadable book taunts us with its secrets, another ancient artifact teases with promises of untold riches, but finding them might be impossible. The Copper Scroll, unlike its parchment companions among the Dead Sea Scrolls, doesn't contain religious texts. Instead, it lists 64 locations where staggering amounts of gold, silver, and precious temple artifacts were supposedly hidden. The twist: the treasure has never been found, and the clues are maddeningly vague. The Copper Scroll isn't like the other Dead Sea Scrolls. It doesn't contain religious texts or ancient wisdom. Instead, it reads like a thief's fever dream, a list of 64 hiding places where unimaginable riches were supposedly stashed. We're talking about tons of gold and silver, along with precious temple artifacts, buried in caves, cisterns, and even beneath Jerusalem's streets. But here's the catch: despite decades of searching, not a single shekel of this treasure has ever been found. What makes the scroll so maddening is its cryptic language. The descriptions are vague, referencing landmarks that may no longer exist: a ruin in the Valley of Achor, a tunnel near the Pool of Solomon. Some entries sound like riddles. In the cavity of the old house of tribute, in the chain platform, 65 bars of gold. Even the scroll's material is a puzzle. Unlike its fragile parchment counterparts, this one was etched onto thin copper sheets, as if meant to endure for centuries. Was this a practical safeguard, or a clue that the treasure was real and meant to be recovered? Scholars are divided. Some argue the scroll is a literal inventory of the Second Temple's wealth, hidden before the Roman sack of Jerusalem in 70 CE. Others think it's symbolic, perhaps an allegory for spiritual riches or a fictionalized account to taunt invaders. The most tantalizing theory, that the treasure was found long ago, plundered by Romans or secreted away by temple priests, leaving the scroll as a ghost of what once was. Modern treasure hunters haven't given up. Expeditions armed with ground-penetrating radar and satellite imaging have scoured the Judean desert, following the scroll's clues like a 2,000-year-old treasure map. Some claim to have found minor artifacts or caves that match descriptions, but the mother lode remains elusive. The terrain itself conspires against discovery. Earthquakes have reshaped the landscape, and flash floods could have buried the loot deeper than any shovel can reach. Yet the scroll's allure endures. It whispers of a time when Jerusalem's wealth was legendary, when gold-lined temple walls glittered under the Mediterranean sun. Whether fact or fable, the copper scroll taps into something primal: the thrill of the hunt, the promise of uncovering what was meant to stay hidden. And as we wrestle with its enigmas, another artifact emerges from the shadows, one that challenges not just history, but the very limits of human ingenuity. Because while the copper scroll teases us with lost gold, the Baghdad battery offers something even more startling: proof that ancient civilizations might have harnessed electricity a millennium before we thought possible. The Baghdad battery sits quietly in a museum display case, looking deceptively ordinary, just a 6-inch clay jar with a copper cylinder inside and an iron rod protruding from its stopper. But this unassuming artifact, dating back to the Parthian or Sasanian era around 2,000 years ago, might hold the key to rewriting the history of technology. Fill the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, and something remarkable happens. The iron and copper interact through the electrolyte, creating a small electric charge. In essence, it becomes a primitive battery capable of producing around 1 volt of electricity, not enough to power a light bulb, but sufficient for subtle electrochemical experiments. So what was it used for? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, the process of coating one metal with another using electricity. Artifacts from the same period show gold-plated objects with a level of precision that's hard to achieve without some form of electrical assistance. A craftsman could have connected multiple batteries in series to increase the voltage, then dipped a silver statue into a gold solution, using the current to bond the metals. Another possibility lies in medicine. Ancient Greek and Roman texts describe using electric fish to numb pain, and the Baghdad battery could have been an early attempt to harness that power artificially. Imagine a healer applying the tingling current to soothe joint pain or stimulate muscles, an ancient form of electrotherapy. Skeptics argue it might have been nothing more than a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, with the iron rod acting as a spindle. But here's the twist: similar devices have been found across Mesopotamia, all with the same basic design. If these were batteries, their existence implies a deliberate understanding of electrical principles centuries before Galvani and Volta pioneered modern battery science in the late 1700s. The real mystery isn't just whether it worked, it's why the knowledge was lost. Did wars or shifting trade routes disrupt the transmission of this technology? Was it a guarded secret of temple priests or alchemists, forgotten when their traditions died out? Or perhaps, like many ancient innovations, it was simply overshadowed by more pressing concerns. its potential overlooked until modernity rediscovered it. Whatever the truth, the Baghdad battery forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient ingenuity. While we'll never know for certain how it was used, its very existence whispers of a time when science and mysticism blurred, when experimentation flourished in ways we're only beginning to uncover. And as we ponder this tiny jar's untapped potential, another ancient marvel calls to us, one not of earthly currents, but celestial alignments. High in the sands of Egypt, the pyramids gaze toward the stars with a precision that defies coincidence. The pyramids of Giza don't just dominate the desert skyline, they might also mirror the heavens with uncanny precision. The Orion correlation theory proposes that the three main pyramids align with the stars of Orion's belt as they appeared over 11,000 years ago, in 10,500 BC. But here's the twist: the arrangement isn't just a rough match. The pyramid's positions relative to the Nile mirror Orion's stars relative to the Milky Way, with the smallest pyramid slightly offset, just like the dimmest star in the belt. The angles between the structures match the celestial angles within a fraction of a degree. If this was deliberate, it would mean the ancient Egyptians, or perhaps an even older civilization, encoded astronomical knowledge into the landscape millennia before recorded history. How could they have known? Mainstream Egyptology places the pyramid's construction around 2500 BCE, long after the proposed alignment. Proponents of the theory argue the site's sacred geometry preserves far older wisdom, possibly passed down from a lost culture that observed the stars when Orion's belt last occupied that exact position. The Great Pyramid's air shafts, which point toward specific stars like Sirius and Orion, add fuel to the idea. These shafts aren't just random vents, they're precisely angled to frame celestial events, suggesting the builders cared deeply about synchronizing their work with the cosmos. Critics, however, see coincidence rather than calculation. They point out that Orion's belt is one of the most recognizable star patterns, making accidental alignments statistically plausible. The Nile's course has also shifted over millennia, potentially skewing the terrestrial celestial mirror. And while the pyramid's layout is precise, it's not a perfect match. The third pyramid's offset is slightly more pronounced than its stellar counterpart. Yet the theory persists because it taps into a deeper question. How much did ancient cultures know about astronomy, and why did they care? The night sky wasn't just a spectacle to them. It was a clock, a calendar, and a map to the divine. If the pyramids do mirror Orion, it might not be a literal star map but a symbolic one, linking the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife with Orion's role in Egyptian mythology as the home of Osiris, god of rebirth. This celestial conversation between earth and sky doesn't end in Egypt. Far to the north, another ancient culture carved their astronomical knowledge into temple walls, but with a twist. At Dendera, a cryptic relief shows what looks suspiciously like a modern light bulb, complete with a snaking filament and a socket. Could this be evidence of forgotten technology, or just a misinterpreted religious symbol? The answer might illuminate more than just a single mystery. The Dendera temple's most controversial carving doesn't depict gods or pharaohs. It shows what looks eerily like a modern light bulb. Nestled in a crypt beneath the temple's stone walls, the relief features a bulb-shaped object with a snaking filament inside, supported by a pedestal that resembles an electrical insulator. Even more striking, a figure stands nearby, gripping what could be interpreted as a cable, while a baboon, often linked to Thoth, the god of wisdom, holds a knife to the filament's base like a switch. To some, this is smoking gun evidence that ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity, lighting their tombs and temples with glowing bulbs long before Edison's invention. But mainstream Egyptologists offer a very different interpretation. This isn't technology, it's symbolism. The official explanation ties the carving to the Djed pillar, a sacred symbol of stability, and the lotus flower, representing creation. The so-called filament is said to depict a serpent emerging from the lotus, a common motif in Egyptian mythology linked to the sun god Ra's nightly journey through the underworld. The baboon's knife, a ritual gesture, not an electrical switch, yet the resemblance to a light bulb is uncanny, fueling theories that the temple's architects encoded advanced knowledge into their art. Proponents point to the temple's soot-free ceilings. How, they ask, could intricate carvings have been illuminated by torches without leaving smoke stains? Skeptics counter that the absence of soot could simply mean workers used reflective surfaces or oil lamps with carefully directed flames. No physical remnants of bulbs or batteries have been found in Egypt, and no textual references describe electrical devices. But here's where the mystery deepens. The Baghdad battery, discovered in Mesopotamia, proves that ancient cultures could have generated small currents. Could the Dendera relief be a stylized representation of a similar device, lost to time? The debate reveals a fascinating tension between literalism and metaphor in archaeology. Ancient cultures often depicted cosmic truths through symbolic art, blending observation with mythology. What looks like a light bulb to modern eyes might have been a sacred diagram of divine energy, not a technical blueprint. Yet the possibility lingers: what if we're misreading their symbols because we've underestimated their ingenuity? As the Dendera carving keeps scholars divided, another ancient artifact challenges our assumptions even more boldly. Half a world away, a map drawn in 1513 shows coastlines no European should have known, including an ice-free Antarctica. The Piri Reis map doesn't just defy its era's cartography, it hints at lost knowledge that predates recorded history. The Piri Reis map is a cartographic anomaly that shouldn't exist, at least not with the details it contains. Drawn in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragment of a larger world map depicts coastlines with startling accuracy, from the western shores of Africa and South America to something even more inexplicable: the northern coastline of Antarctica free of ice. Here's what makes that impossible. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and its ice sheets have covered the land for at least 6,000 years. So how could a 16th century mapmaker have known its shape beneath the frozen veil? The map itself offers a clue in its own margins. Piri Reis notes that he compiled it from earlier source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. He references charts drawn by infidel geographers, likely referencing pre-Islamic or even ancient Greek and Phoenician navigators, suggesting his work was a patchwork of far older knowledge. This raises a tantalizing possibility that ancient seafarers, long before recorded history, might have explored Antarctica during a warmer climatic period and mapped its coastline. Some researchers point to the map's striking resemblance to modern subglacial surveys of Antarctica's landmass, particularly the Queen Maud Land region. The contours align with seismic data showing the continent's true shape beneath the ice, a match too precise to dismiss as coincidence. Critics, however, argue the landmass could represent a distorted South America or even a fictional southern continent, a common cartographic trope of the era. They note that the map lacks longitudinal lines, making exact comparisons unreliable. But here's the counterpoint. Piri Reis's depiction of South America's eastern coast is remarkably accurate for its time, including details like the Amazon's mouth and the Falkland Islands, features most European maps wouldn't capture for decades. If his rendering of the South wasn't Antarctica, what was it? The debate takes a stranger turn when examining the map's technical sophistication. It uses a form of spherical trigonometry, a mathematical technique Renaissance Europe hadn't yet rediscovered, to project the curvature of the Earth. This suggests that ancient sources Piri Rise referenced weren't just crude sketches but advanced geographic documents, possibly from civilizations like the Minoans or Phoenicians, whose seafaring prowess is well documented but whose maps have vanished. What's most haunting isn't the map's existence, it's the implications. If ancient cultures knew Antarctica's shape, they must have had the means to explore it. That would rewrite our understanding of prehistoric maritime technology and global exploration. Were there Bronze Age voyages we've forgotten? Did a warm climatic window, like the Holocene optimum around 6,000 years ago, allow access to now frozen shores? The map offers no answers, only whispers of a world where history's lost chapters might still be hidden, waiting to be unearthed. And as we grapple with the Piri Rise enigma, another artifact emerges from the shadows, one not drawn on parchment, but trapped in stone. In the backcountry of Texas, a hammer encased in ancient rock challenges our very timeline of human toolmaking, blurring the line between geological epochs. The London hammer is an artifact that seems to defy the very laws of geology. Discovered in 1936 near the small town of London, Texas, it was found encased in a chunk of rock dating back an astonishing 400 million years, long before humans or even dinosaurs walked the earth. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 19th century miner's hammer with a wooden handle and an iron head. But the rock surrounding it is from the Ordovician period, a time when life on Earth was confined to primitive sea creatures and the first simple plants. How could a clearly man-made object end up sealed inside ancient stone? One explanation is that the hammer isn't as ancient as the rock around it. Geologists point to a process called concretion, where minerals in groundwater can gradually cement around an object, creating a hard, rock-like shell over centuries rather than millennia. The hammer could have been dropped or abandoned in the 19th century, and over time, dissolved iron and silica in the water formed a natural cast around it. The surrounding rock, though old, might have been fractured or porous enough to allow this rapid encasement. Tests on the hammer's metal composition show it's consistent with 19th century ironwork, supporting the idea that it's a relatively recent artifact caught in a geological illusion. But here's where the mystery deepens. The wood handle, partially transformed into coal, suggests it underwent a process of carbonization, something that typically requires immense pressure and time. How could a handle from the 1800s fossilize so quickly? Proponents of the hammer's anomalous nature argue that the concretion theory doesn't fully explain the degree of petrification. Some even speculate that the hammer could be a relic of a lost civilization, one that existed far earlier than mainstream history accepts. The debate hinges on a fundamental question: are we looking at a freak of geology or evidence of something far stranger? Mainstream science leans toward the former, but the hammer's discovery, embedded in solid rock with no signs of a cavity or disturbance, still puzzles those who study it. The rock itself shows no evidence of being tampered with, as if the hammer simply materialized inside it. What makes the London hammer so captivating isn't just the artifact itself, but what it represents: a collision between our understanding of time and the tantalizing possibility of anomalies that don't fit. Whether a quirk of nature or a glimpse of forgotten history, it forces us to question how well we really know Earth's timeline. And as we wrestle with this enigma, another ancient marvel calls to us, this time not buried in stone, but standing proudly against the horizon. On a remote Pacific island, massive stone figures guard secrets of their own, their creation and transport as baffling as any mystery we've explored. The Moai of Easter Island stand as silent sentinels of a vanished world, their towering forms gazing inland from rocky slopes with an air of quiet mystery. Each statue carved from compressed volcanic tuff, weighs as much as 80 tons, some taller than a 3-story building. Yet the real enigma isn't their size, but their journey. The Rapa Nui people, with no wheels, no draft animals, and no metal tools, somehow transported these colossal figures miles across rugged terrain from the quarry at Rono Raraku to ceremonial platforms called Ahu dotting the coastline. For centuries, this feat seemed impossible until a bold experiment revealed a surprising clue. The statues might have walked. In 2012, archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo tested a radical theory. With ropes tied around a replica moai, teams rocked the statue side to side in a rhythmic tug of war, inching it forward with each sway. The result, the moai walked upright, its curved base allowing it to pivot like a fridge being nudged into place. This method, echoed in Rapa Nui oral traditions of the statues moving by mana, would explain the lack of wide roads or heavy machinery, but it's not without controversy. Critics point to where patterns on ancient roads suggesting some moai were dragged horizontally on sledges or log rollers. Others propose a hybrid approach. Statues were rocked upright for short distances but laid flat for longer hauls. Yet transportation is only half the puzzle. Why place them with such precision? Each Ahu aligns with celestial events like solstice sunrises or the rising of specific stars. The moai themselves weren't just monuments, they were conduits. Carved with their backs to the sea, they faced villages, their hollow eye sockets once filled with coral and obsidian to watch over the living. Some theories suggest they represented deified ancestors, their presence ensuring fertility or protection. But there's a darker twist. When European ships arrived in the 1700s, many moai lay toppled, their platforms abandoned. Was this civil war, ecological collapse, or a rejection of old beliefs? The answer might lie in the island's fragile ecosystem. Pollen studies reveal that deforestation, partly from rolling moai on palm logs, led to soil erosion and famine, fracturing a society once capable of stone giants. What lingers isn't just the how, but the why. The Rapa Nui didn't just build statues, they reshaped their world to honor an invisible order, investing generations of labor into stones that outlived their civilization. Their story whispers a warning. Even the grandest monuments are fragile when the land beneath them falters. And as these silent watchers guard their secrets, another ancient wonder beckons, one that floated in the sky, not on stone, but on the ingenuity of a people who turned desert into paradise. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon dangle in history's imagination, part wonder, part mirage. Ancient texts describe terraced gardens rising like a green mountain above the Mesopotamian desert, their vines cascading over stone walls, fed by intricate irrigation systems that defied the arid climate. Greek historians like Strabo and Diodorus Siculus painted vivid pictures of this paradise, crediting King Nebuchadnezzar II with its construction as a gift to his homesick queen. But here's the catch: despite centuries of searching, not a single brick, aqueduct, or inscription confirming the garden's existence has ever been found in Babylon. The mystery only deepens when you consider the logistics. How could a civilization in the heart of the desert, where water was scarcer than gold, sustain such a lush oasis? Ancient sources claim a complex system of screws, pumps, and cisterns lifted water from the Euphrates River to the highest terraces, a feat requiring engineering rivaling the pyramids. Some researchers suggest the gardens might have used a chain pump, a loop of buckets powered by slaves or oxen, to circulate water continuously. Others propose an even more ingenious solution: capillary action through layers of reeds and bitumen, allowing water to seep upward like a sponge. But without physical evidence, these theories remain speculative. Then there's the location debate. A decade ago, Oxford scholar Stephanie Daly dropped a bombshell. What if the gardens weren't in Babylon at all? Her research points to Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, where King Sennacherib left detailed inscriptions about a sprawling garden irrigated by an elaborate system of canals and aqueducts. Even more compelling, archaeologists have found remnants of these waterworks, including a massive aqueduct inscribed with Sennacherib's name. Could this be the real Hanging Gardens, misattributed to Babylon over time? The confusion might stem from Babylon's fame. After its conquest by Persia, the city became a symbol of grandeur, absorbing legends that may have belonged to others. Yet the absence of evidence in Babylon doesn't necessarily mean the gardens were pure myth. Ancient cities were often rebuilt over centuries, their older layers buried or repurposed. The gardens could lie beneath modern settlements or have been dismantled stone by stone. What's tantalizing is the universality of the idea. From Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, cultures worldwide created elevated gardens, places where nature was curated, controlled, and exalted. Even if the Hanging Gardens never existed as described, their legend persists because they embody a human longing to conquer the impossible, to make the desert bloom. And as we grapple with this botanical ghost, another ancient marvel whispers from the highlands of Scotland, where stones fused by unimaginable heat challenge our understanding of the past. The vitrified forts of Scotland stand as eerie monuments to an ancient enigma, massive stone walls fused together by heat so intense it turned rock into glass. Scattered across the highlands, these Iron Age strongholds, like Craig Fadraig and Tap O Noth, bear unmistakable signs of vitrification, sections where granite or sandstone have melted and resolidified into a glossy, volcanic-like crust. Temperatures required for this transformation exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius, far hotter than any ordinary fire could produce. Yet there's no evidence of nearby volcanoes, meteor strikes, or even widespread burning that could explain such localized searing heat. How did Bronze Age people, armed with little more than stone tools and timber, achieve or survive such extreme conditions? One theory points to deliberate construction techniques. Ancient builders might have stacked wood against the walls and set massive bonfires, hoping to strengthen the fortifications by melting the stones into a solid mass. Experiments in the 1930s showed that prolonged fires could vitrify small sections of rock, but replicating the scale seen in these forts would require burning entire forests in a single, controlled inferno, a logistical nightmare. Even more puzzling, many vitrified sections appear only in patches, as if the heat was applied selectively, avoiding total collapse of the walls. Then there's the plasma hypothesis. Some researchers suggest these forts were struck by colossal electrical discharges, perhaps from intense atmospheric phenomena like plasma storms or concentrated lightning. Ancient accounts of sky fire and dragon's breath could describe such events, with the forts acting as accidental conductors. Geologists note that vitrification resembles fulgurite, the glassy tubes formed when lightning strikes sand. But could natural lightning strike with enough force and precision to fuse entire fortresses? The odds seem astronomical. The most haunting possibility is that the vitrification wasn't accidental at all. A handful of fringe theorists propose these forts were battlefield test sites for lost technology, energy weapons, or directed heat beams wielded by an advanced, forgotten civilization. While there's zero archaeological evidence for such devices, the fort's strategic hilltop locations and the vitrification's uneven distribution do little to quell the speculation. What's undeniable is the fort's enduring mystery. they stand as stark reminders that the ancient world might have witnessed forces, natural or otherwise, that we've yet to comprehend. As the Scottish wind whistles through these glass-strewn ruins, the stones whisper a challenge: decode the scars of their transformation, and you might unlock secrets that rewrite history. And so we arrive at our final enigma, one not carved in stone or forged in fire, but etched onto small, mysterious discs discovered in a remote Chinese cave. The Dropa Stones, with their tiny hieroglyphs and claims of extraterrestrial contact, straddle the line between archaeology and legend, leaving us to wonder, are they the key to an ancient cosmic connection, or an elaborate hoax that outlived its creators? The Dropa Stones might be the most polarizing artifacts in archaeology, tiny discs no larger than a dinner plate, etched with spiral grooves of hieroglyphs so small they resemble microscopic circuitry. Discovered in 1938 by Chinese archaeologist Kai Pu Te in a remote mountain cave near the Tibetan border, these stones immediately sparked wild theories. According to a controversial translation by Russian linguist Dr. Tsum Nui, the glyphs tell of a spacecraft crashing in the Bayan Karaula Mountains 12,000 years ago, its survivors the Dropa people stranded on Earth. The stones allegedly describe these beings as small, frail creatures with oversized heads who intermarried with local tribes, leaving behind hybrid descendants. But here's where the story unravels. No reputable scholar has ever verified these translations, and the original stones vanished during World War II, leaving only grainy photographs and hearsay. Mainstream archaeology dismisses the Dropa stones as an elaborate hoax, possibly misidentified by discs, ancient Chinese ceremonial jade objects, or even 20th century fabrications. The cave where they were found also contained skeletal remains of unusually short-statured individuals, which some ufologists claim were the alien visitors. Anthropologists, however, identify them as part of the Ham people, a known ethnic group with genetic dwarfism. The stone's spiral inscriptions, far from alien script, might simply be weathering patterns or tool marks misread through the lens of wishful thinking. Yet the controversy endures because it taps into a deeper human impulse, the desire for proof that we're not alone. Artifacts like the Dropa stones thrive in the gap between what we know and what we long to believe. They force us to confront how easily myth can masquerade as history when evidence is scarce. But perhaps the real lesson isn't about aliens, it's about us. These mysteries reveal how cultures weave narratives to explain the unexplained, whether through ancient star maps or modern UFO lore. As we close this journey through 30 unsolved enigmas, from self-healing Roman concrete to celestial pyramids, one truth stands clear: the past is far stranger than we imagine. These mysteries aren't just puzzles to solve, they're invitations to stay curious, to question, and to marvel at the ingenuity of those who came before us. The greatest artifact of all might be humanity's unshakable wonder, etched not in stone, but in the stories we refuse to stop telling. From the pyramids to Puma Punku, these 30 mysteries are more than just unsolved puzzles, they're humbling reminders of how much we've yet to learn about the ancient world. Every perfectly cut stone, every celestial alignment, every inexplicable artifact whispers a question. Were our ancestors far more advanced than we've given them credit for? The theories are as varied as the mysteries themselves. Some point to lost technologies, like the Damascus steel's nano-engineered strength or the Antikythera Mechanism's clockwork precision knowledge that slipped through the cracks of time. Others suggest these civilizations tapped into forgotten sciences, harnessing acoustics, astronomy, or even energy we can't yet explain. And yes, a few dare to wonder if extraterrestrial influences played a role, though the truth likely lies somewhere between human genius and the gaps in our understanding. What's undeniable is the sheer audacity of these ancient builders. They didn't just construct, they innovated. The Romans mixed self-healing concrete while we struggle with crumbling infrastructure. The Inca engineered earthquake-proof walls without computers or calculus. The architects of Göbekli Tepe carved towering megaliths before the invention of the wheel. These weren't primitive societies, they were problem solvers on a scale that still leaves us awestruck. And perhaps that's the real lesson here. These mysteries aren't just about uncovering lost tools or techniques. They're about rediscovering the boundless creativity of the human mind. The search for answers is its own reward. Every new discovery, whether it's a submerged city like Hypogeum or a cryptic manuscript like Voynich, pulls another thread in the tapestry of history, revealing patterns we never noticed before. Maybe the purpose of these enigmas isn't to be solved, but to keep us curious, to remind us that history isn't a static record but a living conversation. After all, if we could explain everything, where would the wonder be? So what do you think? Were these feats the result of patient trial and error, or did ancient cultures possess insights we've yet to rediscover? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. We love hearing your ideas. And if you're as fascinated by these puzzles as we are, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. There are plenty more mysteries waiting to be explored, from underwater ruins to coded manuscripts that defy translation. The past isn't just stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. And that's what makes it so thrilling. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the greatest stories ever told aren't in books. They're buried in the earth, etched in stone, and waiting for someone like you to uncover.